Peggy Jacobs, your driver needs the key. Peggy Jacobs, your driver needs the key. If there's a Peggy Jacobs here, your driver needs the key. Peggy Jacobs, your driver needs the key.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Man, that music was quite presidential. All right. Thank you for being here for today's special program. Before we get going, my name is Aaron Espinoza. I have the distinct privilege of being the Library and Observatory Director as well as the Executive Director of the Writers Festival. If I can ask everybody to please silence your phones. Today is a Writers Series event. I don't usually talk about Library and Observatory program at many of them, but as you walked in, you saw a quarterly program that had a Dia de los Muertos cover on it. Please take a look at that guide. Our staff have worked so hard on creating a cultural center for the community, and I will tell you that from the months, or starting today, through just the week before Thanksgiving, we have a program, if not 2 to 4 programs, every day of the month. So, very excited about that. I do want to give credit to our staff. They are amazing. You see them as you walk in. You don't get to see Stephen and Julio up in the booth very often, but TJ and our program coordinator, they all do an incredible job, and you guys get to see the end result of it. So please give a hand for the staff. I'd also like to take a moment and give thanks to several people, and I'm going to start with our City Council. Mayor Steve Downs, Mayor Pro Tem Ted Weil, Councilwoman Lynn Mulatto, and Councilman Michael O'Keefe. It is their commitment that helps make this library so wonderful. I'd also like to give thanks to our founder, Jamie Kabler, for all of the incredible support. And although he's not here in attendance, we know that Mr. Jordan Snitcher, who sponsors the whole Writer Series program by himself, want to give him a round of applause as well. Can I get a show of hands who saw a little special announcement? There's 2 I know that went out today. For the Writers Festival, there was an announcement that inadvertently went out this morning. Did anybody get a hand to see that? I see a few small hands. Well, I'm going to tell you that if you didn't see it, we are very excited to be welcoming to the 2025 festival a technologist, business leader, philanthropist, and author, Bill Gates. So we will be making more formal announcements in the days coming up, but those of you that are lucky enough to have a ticket to the 2025 festival, you will get to see Mr. Gates here in person at the Library and Observatory the Monday after our festival. So more information to come out. Let's see here, make sure I got everything. Talking about programming, we talked about that program booklet. Our writer series, we have 3 more sessions coming up. October 15th, internationally recognized expert on First Ladies and operations of the White House, Agneta McBride, will discuss her book, Remember the First Ladies. October 29th, actor, playwright, and local resident, Lawrence Luckenbill, will discuss his new memoir, Effective Memories. And then on November 12th, award-winning director and producer Ed Zwick will discuss his new book, Hits, Flops, and Other Illusions, My 40 Years in Hollywood, and he'll be joined by Dave Carger. I want to give big kudos and thank you to Follett Bookstore, who's here with us today. I know we were able to give everybody a book on their way in, but I want to say thank you to them. They are the ones that help coordinate the 200 books each time. We will be doing a book signing at the end of this event. Usually we have our speaker come to the edge over here and do book signing. We're going to turn that around a little bit today because we have two writers. So we're going to ask everybody to line up on the festival poster wall side, line up at that single door, and we'll actually be doing the book signing in the lobby today. So a little bit of a change for us, okay? All right, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce today's program. What's next? A backstage pass to the West Wing by our remarkable guests, Melissa Fitzgerald and Mary McCormack.
Oh,
thanks, Aaron.
such a nerd.
Thank you. Everybody.
Okay.
This is high tech.
Oh, it's very high tech. So,
So good afternoon. Welcome. You know, usually I start out with a joke about welcome to the desert, and it's 80 degrees, and it's beautiful outside. Welcome to the desert.
Yeah, you guys mean it.
This is 114, so you got to
Is
feel
it?
like it is. Yeah,
Feels good in here,
114
though.
Today.
Yeah.
So you all are in for a treat because this is a fabulous book. And I know it's a little thick, and they're going to talk about that. But I think I read it in 2 or 3 days. I couldn't put it down. So not only are they gifted actresses, but they are wonderful, wonderful writers. So you're in for a treat, and you're going to like this book.
It makes a great doorstop as well.
So why a book about the West Wing?
Great question. I mean, Melissa was approached to write a book. Melissa lives in Washington, D.C., and so she was approached to write. I should let you just tell this story.
sure, I'll take it.
Since it happened to you.
But you know it so well now. But I was approached by book agents in Washington, D.C., asking if I would like to write a behind the scenes of the West Wing book. And I said I would not because I had left Hollywood years before to champion justice system reform. And I felt that anything that I do has to really elevate that. And I knew that writing a book would take a really long time. I didn't know how long, but it would take a long time. But as I thought about it and went to Alice and Janney's birthday party in Los Angeles, and I thought about the connection that we all have, the actors on the show, with service. And we have maintained a really close friendship for all these years.
25 years.
Yeah, oh, ouch. But because we come together around supporting each other's issues and causes, and that's deepened the friendships for sure.
Yeah,
so,
but she said, maybe we should write this book if we did it through a lens of service. And I thought, well, that's a really good idea because Melissa and I end up rallying the troops quite a bit towards service. I mean, we all do for each other, but I think we make a lot of noise on our text chain.
We're bossy.
Text chain. We are the bossiest. But we were overserved at Alice and Janney's birthday party, which is why we thought we can write a book. It's only when you're overserved you think you can do that. But it took us 5 years because we're really, we were new to it, for sure.
So you both acted on the show?
Yes.
Both intimately involved in acting and all of that goes into that.
Yeah.
But what research did you do beyond just your experience
Yeah,
for
well,
this
I mean,
book?
a lot of fan books are written by reporters. I mean,
Yeah.
they're written by someone outside the system, and they do lots of interviews, and they gather information from other articles. And we certainly did over 100 interviews, and read every article, listened to every podcast. We did all the research, but we were also on the show. So these are our friends.
Yeah.
Like this is what's special about What's Next, or one of the things I think that makes it special is that it's our story.
Yeah.
You know, these are our friends. We were there when it happened. We were in the room when it happened. You know, so it's a different perspective.
So did the book start out and end like you thought it would? Did it evolve?
No, it evolved through the interviews because, as Mary said, we did well over 100 interviews. And the book, I'm just going to show you, was supposed to be about maybe this long. It ended up being this long because as we interviewed people, we really got so many great stories. We had to include them in the book. And it did evolve, and structurally it evolved. We knew that we wanted everybody to have an origin story, like how they came to the show, their auditions. And then we also knew that we wanted every single actor to have a service story, which, you know, were the issues and causes that each of us cared about, to highlight those in the book. But structurally, that evolved. I mean, and I'm really happy with where we landed on the structure of the book.
And we knew we wanted to do a chapter about John Spencer, and we knew we wanted to do a chapter honoring Martin and what he means to us, Martin Sheen, who played the president. And so we knew certain things, but we didn't really know about the structure or the layout.
No.
Even as we started.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the title, What's Next? It is a Backstage pass, and we are going to talk about some things that none of us would have known if we hadn't read this book. And we're going to talk about service, because that really was kind of an impetus to why you wrote the book. And it to me, has something to do with the experience you had while you made the film and then the closeness of you afterwards. But I did learn something that I didn't know about a disease that I have, and I bet a lot of you have. So can you tell us about wing nuts?
I was like,
You scared me for a minute there.
wingnuts is the technical term for superfans. That's what we call superfans.
Yes.
Right, probably some wingnuts here today.
I'm sure
and some
many.
future wingnuts, hopefully.
We're wingnuts also.
It's an affectionate term. We love, I mean, listen, our fans are great. They're generally great people. They're people who are mostly involved and interested people, and people who are usually doing service themselves. So we're pretty lucky that people who watch The West Wing at that level are usually fun to chat with and run into.
And that was part of that, too, with the book, is that a lot of the, you know, I found in the work that I do, a lot of our fans really supported the work that we all do together in a really deep and meaningful way.
So I think we need to start at the beginning, again, even before I talk about the title, and that is Aaron Sorkin. I mean, I think we have to talk about how he got involved and what the story is in that, because he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So tell us about how Aaron first was contacted.
Well, Aaron didn't want to write a TV show. I mean, he writes the foreword, and he tells this story, so you'll all get to, and he tells it better than we're going to tell it. Obviously, he's Aaron Sorkin. But he had no interest in writing a television show, but he had a meeting set with John Wells, who produced The West Wing, produced ER before that, and China Beach, and very accomplished producer, set a meeting with Aaron and thought, I'm going to convince him to do a TV show. And the night before that meeting, Aaron was having a dinner party at his house, and why am I spacing his name? The wonderful
Akiva Goldsman,
who's a friend of mine. I'm just now have 55-year-old brain. Akiva Goldsman was having a cigarette break with Aaron, and he pointed up at the poster of American President and said, "That would make a great television show." And so Aaron sort of thought, oh, that's interesting, whatever. And the next day he goes into lunch and he sits down. It was not just John Wells, it was John and some studio executives. Like, it was a much more official meeting. And they said, so what do you want to do? And Aaron was like, oh, I just wanted to meet you. I didn't really have anything up my sleeve. So he sort of went ahead and pitched The West Wing. He pitched a sort of show about the staff in The West Wing. And that was how it came to be.
And I think any conversation you have about The West Wing, you have to start with Aaron Sorkin because of the exceptional scripts. I read the pilot of The West Wing, and I think anyone who read the pilot, it was the best pilot I'd ever read by far, miles. And I think pretty much every single person we interviewed said the same thing.
And it's true that in the past, shows had been tried about government, and they never had worked. Not one had ever made it to network television, and it took Aaron really to get it there.
And we tell that story too in the book a bit. In What's Next, we talk about it with Peter Roth, who was the head of Warner Brothers Television at the time, and he said that no political show had ever been successful, but Aaron Sorkin.
So I know nothing about acting. I've never been to a studio, never been on a scene where you act. But I learned all kinds of things, and one of those was that you go and you read for a part. But reading for Aaron was different.
So you audition, and usually when you audition with the casting director, and sometimes the writer or the producer will be in the room, or the director. But the casting associate will read the other part with you. So if you're doing a scene, you're usually reading it with a young casting associate. And when Aaron auditions people, he reads that part, which is really unusual because usually the writer / showrunner will want to sit and watch everything and not miss anything. But he somehow doesn't miss anything. No. And he likes, I think he...
Well, he was an actor.
And he's, yes.
Started as an actor.
And he's so particular about his words, but also the music of his writing. The rhythms are so important. Like if you watch an Aaron Sorkin show, you can hear it. You wouldn't even have to watch it to know it was sort of Aaron. And I think that he wants to set that tone, and make sure the other actors can do that dance.
And the pacing of it, too, I think is pretty unique.
Yeah.
It's very, very fast-paced. And in fact, on our show, you also have to be letter perfect. On many TV shows, you don't have to be letter perfect. You can make it your own by adding a, or a this or that. Yeah, but not on The West Wing at all. And in fact, we had somebody whose job was specifically to listen for that, to make sure that every actor was saying each and every word perfectly. And again, it's not about being controlling, it's about the music. And if you change a note in the music, you've changed the music. And I think everybody really appreciated that and understood that.
But we'd have guest actors come on and not appreciate it.
Or not know it.
Not know it, in fairness, not know it, and then sort of learn it.
Yeah, and we have a couple of those really funny stories in here, too. It's like Oliver Platt, phenomenal actor, and Aaron told him, make it your own. To him, make it your own meant you could throw in a couple words here and there.
Well, to Oliver it meant that.
Yes.
To Aaron, make it your own.
That's what I meant.
To Aaron it meant like,
but
I don't know what it meant.
But it just meant, bringing yourself to it or whatever as an actor. But Oliver Platt came in and had changed the script so much and then realized, I think Stockard told him that, no.
I learned another term called walk and talk.
Oh, walk and talks. Yeah, The West Wing is famous for that. Walk and talk, probably a lot of you know this, but a walk and talk is when the camera operator straps the camera onto his or her body, which is heavy. It's called a steady cam, and walks backwards while the actors walk and talk the entire scene. So instead of a normal scene where like if we were shooting this scene, you'd shoot us first, us talking together, then you'd shoot over my shoulder and get Melissa, then you'd shoot over Melissa and get me, and editor would chop it all up and make a scene. A walk and talk, you do the entire scene in one shot. And there's the camera operators, working really hard, and then all the people around the operator are working really hard pulling cables so he doesn't trip and holding a boom up over his head and making sure that all the sound is being caught. So there's a lot of elements that go into a walk and talk. And also the actors have to not mess it up because it's only one take. So
no editing at all.
And the way Aaron writes his scenes, they're awfully long walk and talks. And sometimes there's other languages involved.
Yeah.
And they're hard. So they're really hard. And
you had to do Arabic and Mandarin.
I know,
right?
I speak.
She did.
It's like I would.
Come on, say it.
I can say one sentence still from The West Wing in Mandarin, which is "我明白当时总统天气要下飞机，我叫用驾到." Which means, thank you. So you won't clap when you heard it. I understand, but the president would really like to get off the plane. Do you have a hydraulic lift? Just not that useful.
was useful once.
For once.
But in the walk and talk also, you have background artists who are, it's like a dance and a ballet and also tons of lines. And I always say that my very favorite walk and talks are the ones that I'm not in.
Yeah. It's horrible because when you have the last line in a walk and talk, like if you're, there's the scene's coming and you can hear them coming, you're like, oh God, please, 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 please,
Yeah,
please.
horrible.
Someone mess up before me, and no one's messing up, and then you're like, okay, well, here we go. And you just hope you get your lines out because if you're the one who messes up when they've done such great work, the cameras worked, the sounds worked, all the actors have, the backgrounds worked, it's all worked, and then if you choke, you're like, oh God, please, no. And you just hear you hear 100 people on the set hidden behind walls just go, oh. Just a communal ugh.
Yeah.
So, Steve, if you'll put up the clip that I gave you earlier, you have multiple chapters about the cast.
Yeah.
And you really go through each one of them, talk about how they were cast, talk about them personally, talk about their roles and their service. You call them service stories. And we're not going to have time to go through every single one of those as much as I'd like to. I have questions for everyone if you want to talk to me afterwards. But the one I want to start with is Martin. And I guess I just want to ask, he's someone that I wish I knew.
Yeah.
And after reading this book, I didn't know that before. He's someone I wish I knew, and he was my friend and I was his friend. Because he sounds like that kind of person. So tell us about Martin.
We were just saying this the other day. We were saying that we feel so fortunate that in this lifetime we've gotten to know somebody as wonderful as Martin. And, he really is as great as you think he is. He's 1,000 times better. He's just been he's set the tone for all of us in terms of how to live a life as an artist and in service. And, we tell the story in the book about one of my very first days on the set, and Martin came to set, and he there were a lot of background artists that other people call extras, but they're background artists who were working there. And in Hollywood, generally, they don't get treated as well as the other actors on a set. And Martin came onto the set. There were a lot of background artists in the scene. And he came and shook hands with each and every background artist. And not just shook hands, but introduced himself, asked them their name, asked them where they were from.
If he were here today,
we'd never get out of here.
Every one of you was from. It's just built in.
It is. And he also would thank them for working with us. Say, thanks for being here today. So glad you could join us.
It's true.
And I was standing there watching this happen and watching the producers look at their watches and thinking, gosh, he knows we have stuff to do. What's happening? And then I thought, he's really setting an example for all of us and teaching us how this is going to go down from here on out on this show, and that we're going to treat everybody with dignity and respect and value everybody's work on this show. And Mary, we talked about this earlier today, to remember to say the part about background artists often eat different food in different places than the rest of the actors and crew. And, Martin said...
So they have a separate menu, separate area. It's just, that's sort of how it's done.
And like stratified. And Martin said, we're going to eat together, to the producers.
Yeah, he went to the
because
producers and
families eat together.
Yeah.
And we all ate together, and it really was a family.
Yeah.
Still a family.
Yeah, and he's the dad.
Yeah.
He really is. We all look up to him. We love him so much, and he loves us back. He's just the best human being. He's the greatest. And he and John were like, John Spencer were like mom and dad.
So tell us about Sun City and the bingo bus.
Well, Martin organized with, this really wonderful background artist, Lenore. They organized together, and Ramon, his son, took the background and other actors who wanted
Every
to go,
season.
and, took everybody, I think it was end of November, beginning of December, took everybody on a big bus to Las Vegas, all expenses paid by Martin, stayed at a hotel, restaurants,
tickets to shows.
Yeah, that's right. And gambling on the bus on the way up,
Yeah.
and he gave everybody money to gamble. And there were real prizes like TVs and things like
Yeah.
that.
And because it was a lot of mostly background actors, he
Yeah.
really wanted to spoil them and thank them and let them know how much they were valued. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He's really
Yeah, and it was like before the holidays, so he also said, I realized that we had done the money thing on the way up, but not on the way back. And there was the holidays, so I decided we also had to do it on the way back.
yeah, in case they lost all their money.
Yeah.
So you can, and there's story after story like that. You can see why he would be someone you'd want to be your friend. So I want to talk about service because that's a major, major emphasis of the book. But I thought I'd start off with something that kind of resonated with me because you talk about in the book that some days Martin wouldn't be there in the morning because he had been
He gets arrested. Yeah.
protesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
he never missed work. Let's
But he
be
played
clear.
a
No,
little
he
bit.
never
they-
missed work.
No, because
There
he
was
would
never-
talk to
yeah.
the assistant directors ahead of time, and they would schedule around it. They'd be
Yeah.
like, well, Martin's getting out of jail on Sunday at this time. Maybe we should bring him in. Let's bring him in a little later on Monday because surely he'll be tired from jail.
Yeah.
You know. And it was true. Like I would show up on a Monday morning, and I was newer to the show, much later in the run, and everyone would talk about what they did over the weekend, which is like normal Monday morning stuff. I went to a movie or I did this, and he'd be like, "Well, I got out of jail on Sunday," and I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Just protesting for things he believed in. I mean, he really
He
walks,
walks the walk for sure.
like nobody I've known.
So can I get you to read one part of your book? It's a quote from Martin, and it just kind of typifies what we're talking about, and it
read
resonates
it.
with me. I know I'm supposed to give it to her because
Yes.
she
You
has the
can read
glasses.
it.
No, I'll pass
But I have
it
to take my
over.
glasses off because I'm blind.
And I'm
I know
passing it
sounds
to her
weird,
because
but
I'm blind.
I'm really blind. So I start here and go
Yep.
to there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope I don't mess it up. So Joe's defending me, and we drew a very interesting judge. I don't know what level of the federal bench, but it was in the same building I'd been shutting down. She looked at the record and she says to me, "Ramon, every time I'm arrested, the only ID I have is under my real name, Ramon Antonio Gerardo Estevez. I'm looking at this series of offenses, and you're just going to start this again. I don't think it's going to do any good to send you to jail for a while, is it?" She's actually talking to me like a human being. I say, "Probably not, under the circumstances. I mean, Your Honor, do you know what's going on in Central America?" And she says, "Oh, I do. Will you do community service?" I said, "I will." She sentenced me to 150 hours of community service. I got sent to Bread and Roses in Venice, California. The Sisters of St. Joseph had a soup kitchen. I had to work off 150 hours, which I did in short order. I stayed for another 10 years. I didn't leave until the West Wing.
That's good.
Oh, no, there's more.
Go
I
ahead.
blew it. I blew it, my one job. Of course I went back and
I
volunteered.
won't make you start over.
Of course I went back and volunteered, and my son Ramon joined up as a short order cook. When he was in high school, my grandson Taylor would come during days off, and we'd serve the homeless. It was a wonderful experience. It's Martin.
Yeah.
And did that kind of cause people to look more at doing public service?
100%. I mean, doing service in general.
So tell us about what you two do.
Well, we do lots of different things. I mean, we're all on a text chain. The West Wingers are on it.
They're on a text chain.
And we are, it's like we send out the bat signal. I'll say, like, I need someone to co-host a benefit for JDRF, or I need someone to do a Mom's Demand event, or whatever, and Melissa's work, and and then everyone rallies around. We really do sort of
And
come to each
scheduling
other's-
it, and so our text chain are two things.
Yeah.
Coming together around issues and causes, and
Making fun of Josh Molina.
yes.
And we'll
It's
get
true.
to Josh.
Okay, we'll get there, but that is
that's
a
the
big
text
chunk
chain.
of the text chain. But Melissa's work has also been really inspirational to all of us, and we're all involved in it now because she's sort of our moral center
So
of
tell
our
us
group.
about it. Tell us.
Well, and actually, Martin Sheen is one of the reasons that I'm doing the work that I'm doing now. I work for an organization called All Rise, and we advance justice system reform for individuals impacted by substance use and mental health disorders, promoting treatment and recovery support instead of incarceration. So it's
amazing work.
And Mary has been right by my side, and so has the rest of the cast from the very beginning. But I'll just talk about it for a second, and then I'll tell you how Martin got me involved. But it is really the perfect marriage of public health and public safety. It saves lives, reunites families, makes our communities safer, saves taxpayer dollars. It's a win-win-win-win for everyone.
Which is why it has bipartisan support too. It's like one of the few things that we can all agree on, because it just makes sense. They work.
And I've spent the last 10 years traveling to courtrooms all over the country, to treatment courts around the country, and seeing people thriving after being in the deepest depths of addiction and in the justice system, and now having jobs, being parents to their children, having, and you're a judge. My dad is a judge, Mary's sister is a judge, and speaking to judges around the country who've said, prior to working in a treatment court, when people would come back into my courtroom, it was because they had been rearrested. Now they come back to tell me that they got a new job, introduce me to their kids, invite me to a wedding. It's been the highlight of their careers in criminal justice, and I feel incredibly honored to do that work.
It's really moving work.
It's a great program, and you should be commended. California started it in the 90s. They call them collaborative courts here. Mental health, DUI, veterans. They are amazing, and they do much better than incarceration. Much better. So
thank you. And Martin got me involved. I mean, I lost a dear friend to addiction, and Martin knew and asked me to come speak with him at the All Rise conference in Washington, D.C. And I supported the organization after that because I fell in love with the work that they were doing. And my dad started one of those courts as a judge in Philadelphia. He was one of the people who started the mental health court there. So, within 2 years, I moved to D.C. and I've been working there ever since for over a decade.
Over a decade.
So that's
I
great.
know.
That's great.
It'll be 11 years in November.
At the end of each chapter,
Crazy.
there's a service story
Yes.
that talks about someone or some event that you all participate in, and they're heartwarming and they're wonderful. So you should be commended.
Well,
So
thank you. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about that, because it's been such an important part of our journey as a group and also the inspiration.
We're lucky. Also, we were lucky. I mean, anyone in public, in the public light gets a lot of opportunities to participate in service. But I think we got even more opportunities because of the nature of the show. And I remember Brad Whitford, who played Josh, told us that Anthony Edwards, who played a doctor on ER, said to him, they were friends, and he said to him, "You're about to get a ton of capital, and you can spend it on yourself or you can spend it on other people." And Brad certainly spends it on other people. He's incredibly active. My God.
I mean, everybody is really, and we're just very
We're
fortunate.
blessed.
Yeah. And
We're just
John
blessed.
Spencer used to always say, we get these incredible opportunities, as you said, Mary, because of the show. And he'd be like, well, you wouldn't get this on a cop show.
So tell us about the title, What's Next?
Do you want to tell that one? I mean, there's a lot of, it's the president's catchphrase.
It's the catchphrase.
For all you wingnuts out there, you know that POTUS says it quite a bit. What's next? It means like, I'm done talking about that, let's move on. And Tommy Schlamme, who directed the pilot, tells this story to us and has told it many times, but it is also in the book and probably better told in Tommy's words, not ours. But he said he had visited the White House a few times before he shot the pilot. And one of the things he noticed was the energy, that it never ended, that there was always someone walking by and handing something off, that there was always, you finished a conversation and you moved right into another conversation, that there was this constant buzz. And as scripted, the end of the pilot ended like a play. It didn't, you didn't feel like the action was going to continue. It sort of ended. And he thought, I want to capture that energy that the work is going to continue. And so he said to Aaron, do you mind if I do that? If we pull back and they're still sort of working? And Aaron was like, absolutely, but let me just think about some words. Because of course a writer he had to add some words to it. And he added 2 words, what's next? And it's just brilliant because it's in 2 words, it says like, we're not done. And for me and Melissa, it felt right because it felt like, service is never done. So if we were telling this story, the West Wing story, through the lens of service, there's always something we can do. You can always do a little more. And so it felt meaningful to us for that reason.
And we also feel like the reader is what's next. You're what's next. And we certainly hope that, we know that as Mary said earlier, all of you are probably involved in service. We also hope that when you read the book, maybe you'll be inspired to support some of the issues and causes we care about too. And I'm sure some of you already are. But the reader's what's next.
So I want to do a couple of topics quick, because the first one, again, is an inside backs story that I didn't know about. So and I'm not going to pronounce her name right, but if you can tell us about Blanche Sindelar and the fishbowl.
You nailed her name.
Yeah, you did.
Got it.
Because it changed how I watched the scenes that's in CJ's office. So go ahead.
Blanche is the props head of props department, and she decided for fun, I guess.
Yeah,
really,
and she's great. She was very helpful
She's the
to
best.
us on the book, too.
But CJ has her fish, Gail. So Blanche would every episode decorate the inside of Gail's fishbowl to match the theme of the show.
So if you haven't noticed it, go back and watch it. It's really fun to see that.
Yeah,
It's
sometimes
really
you can
fun.
see them, sometimes you can't. But we do list a bunch of them in here. I mean, in one episode there was a bullet hole in Gail's fish tank.
Right.
And then there's an episode where the president and the first lady want to find some time to be alone, and she added another fish.
Yeah.
And a bed, right? And a bed.
And a bed.
I think she
and a
just did
bed.
it to make everyone laugh.
Yeah.
It's like it's on screen, but not really.
Yeah, you really have to look
No, you do.
carefully. But it was fun, and I think it was fun for her, too.
Yeah, I think so.
And then the final episode,
Yes,
too,
what's
is-
in the final?
Oh yeah, it's
That's
Warner
all,
Brothers.
folks.
Yeah, Warner
Yeah.
Brothers signed. That's all, folks.
And we have a photo of it in the book, which is also a fun. If you haven't gotten the book yet, there are personal photos. The other good thing about it being written by two people who are on the show is our friends gave us their hard copy photos.
Gave
with
us. I had to dig
I
through their
know,
photo
that's true.
drawers. Those lazy
Yeah.
bastards.
And then we had to
I was like
scan
in
'em.
Alice and Janney's house on my knees, like,
But there's some great ones. It was worth
no,
it.
it's worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah, there's some really good photos.
So you actually ask a question in the book, quote, quickly name personal secretaries to the President of the United States. We can all name Rosemary Woods. Kennedy had a Lincoln. Lincoln had a Kennedy. But you had...
Mrs. Landingham.
Landingham. Well, you had Landingham. I had Fitterer.
That's true. That's true. That's right.
So tell us about her, though, Mrs. Landingham.
Catherine Jewston played Mrs. Landingham, and she was quite a character. I can't picture it. Can you picture anyone else playing Mrs. Landingham other than Catherine Jewston? And she came to acting later in life,
Yeah.
and I think she was like 50 years old almost when she came to acting. And
That old?
I know. But she had a whole nother career, and she came to acting, and I just thought she was brilliant. And she was a character. She was salty, didn't suffer
Yeah.
fools,
Yeah.
hilarious, kind of like, a little bit like Mrs. Landingham.
So then you talk about key episodes. And again, we can't talk about them all. But I want to talk about the one with her because I'm going to ask you to read a part of it. And if you can kind of set it up, I hope you can read it better than I can because I tried to read it to Debbie and I started to cry. So it's in Excelsis Dio. And I'm going to ask you to read it. But if you could kind of first set it up so people understand.
You set it up, Melissa.
I'll set it up, you read it. So,
All right, you set it up and read it. Oh, I'll
no,
read it?
you read
Ah,
it.
okay.
So it's one of my, and Mary's as well, it's one of our absolute favorite episodes because, and you all probably know it, it's when Richard Schiff's character Toby donates a coat and he gets a phone call because an unhoused man has passed away on a park bench, and they find his business card in the coat. And they call Toby, and he sees that this man was a veteran. And I think, Mary and I both have worked on behalf of, and continue to work on behalf of veterans. Mary comes from a veteran family. And we found that episode, and I think everybody does, finds that episode so touching. And what do we owe our veterans? And we can do so much better. And Toby does, in that episode, do so much better. And finds this gentleman's brother and gives him a burial, full honors in Arlington. And, in this scene, Mrs. Landingham goes, and this is...
Okay, let's see. The scene, if you don't remember, I'm just going to read this little bit ahead of it
Okay.
before we read her words. Has Charlie and Mrs. Landingham in her office just outside the Oval talking about Christmas and the sons he never knew that she had. In a beautiful halting piece of acting from Dulé, Charlie asks why the twins, Andrew and Simon, didn't get a deferment from Vietnam to finish medical school. Then Catherine Jewston breaks our hearts. They didn't want one. Their father and I begged them, but they wanted to go where people needed doctors. Their father and I begged them, but you can't tell kids anything. So they joined up as medics, and 4 months later they were pinned down during a fight in Da Nang and were killed by enemy fire. That was Christmas Eve, 1970. They were so young, Charlie. Oh, no. I can do it. They were so young, Charlie. They were your age. It's hard when that happens so far away, because with the noises and the shooting, they had to be so scared. Hard not to think that right then, that they needed their mother. Anyway, I miss my boys. I failed you. You should read it. Read it again. I ruined it. I can't.
I would ruin it too.
I'm so sorry.
But it is incredibly moving.
It's just beautiful writing.
Yeah, and it was beautifully done today and beautifully done on the show.
Well, not today.
So I hadn't even thought about asking this until this happened, but did you know when you were in the midst of this, it was something special and it was emotional like this? Because just thinking about it makes me cry.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Did you know?
This episode or in general with the show?
The whole thing with West Wing.
Yes, from the pilot.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I think you do, but not as much. I think I have more perspective on it now. Because when you're doing it, I had a new baby and you're tired and the days are long and you're like, oh God, 3 scenes in the awful office. We called it the awful office because when you're shooting that many people in a circular room, you never leave, So, some of that noise of just life and long hours and stuff can fog up some of the beauty of it. But we still knew. It was a great group of people, and you have great writing, and it's about something. I've acted a long time, and I can't say that about most of my jobs.
And Martin had said something, he and I were driving together, it was after the West Wing was over, and we were going actually to the opening of the Institute of Peace in San Diego, and he said, Martin did not go to college, and he said, I never went to college, but people who've gone to college have told me that those were the best years of their lives. They just wished they had appreciated it then. And he said, West Wing, those were the best years of our lives, but we did appreciate it. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
So another episode,
Yeah.
Noel.
Yeah.
Tell us about Yo-Yo Ma.
Pretty cool.
Well, Yo-Yo Ma played in that episode, in that gorgeous episode, and Brad Whitford's performance. I would rewatch it tonight if you have the opportunity, right after In Excelsis Deo. But he played, and I think Tommy, right, was directing that episode and was filming him, and he said, we got it. You don't have to play for every single take, all the coverage and everything. And he said, oh no, I will play for every single take so that I can have the connection with everybody, and that was incredible.
Yeah.
And then you can tell the Dulé part.
Oh, what?
So tell us about Dulé, because again, it wasn't on the show, so it's something
No,
I didn't know. So
and I wasn't there for this, but I have heard from. Brad Whitford tells this story,
yeah.
and Dulé
And
too.
in our book.
And and it's certainly in the book. But lots of people were there and got to bear witness to this. Which Dulé Hill is like a world-class tap dancer. He's really one of the best tap dancers probably in America.
Yeah.
And he was listening to Yo-Yo Ma play, and he started tapping a little, I think it was to Bach. I think it was to Bach, and apparently they just did this incredible duet with Dulé tap dancing and Yo-Yo Ma playing.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Being
why
there
isn't
for that?
Where was the camera?
Yeah.
I often say, the West Wing we're so close, I think partly because there were no phones then.
Yeah.
We didn't all have phones in our pockets. And so instead of leaving or doing this like young actors do on sets now, we talked and we got to know each other. But boy, I wish there had been a phone that day.
I know, that's true. And I often happened, Dulé would tap dance, and that was just
he tap dances a lot.
Sometimes
for
you
us.
just are there looking and thinking, gosh, I'm so lucky I get to be here for this.
So one other scene from Noel, and I don't know which one wants to read it.
No, well, obviously I've been fired from reading.
No.
If you
I
can
should
kind
not
of
be in
set it
charge
up
of
for
reading.
one.
Oh yeah, I love this. Everybody
You called
loves
it the
this
most cherished scene.
So, do you want to set it up or no?
Yeah.
Set it up.
As for the most cherished exchange, for many of us, for most of us, it's the one that comes after Stanley sends Josh back into the world after he's had all kinds of PTSD, basically. And exiting the West Wing, Josh crosses through the lobby only to be stopped by his boss, who's been waiting for him, Leo. This guy's walking down the street when he falls into a hole. The walls are so steep he can't get out. A doctor passes by and the guy shouts up, "Hey you, can you help me out?" The doctor writes a prescription, throws it down the hole, and moves on. And then a priest comes along and the guy shouts up, "Father, I'm down in this hole, can you help me out?" The priest writes out a prayer, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. Then a friend walks by. Hey, Joe, it's me. Can you help me out? And the friend jumps in the hole. Our guy says, are you stupid? Now we're both down here. The friend says, yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out. Long as I got a job, you got a job. You understand?
I'm crying again. I'm a mess.
Well, it is emotional. I mean, when you think about that story, I've had so many people ask me for a printout of that prior to, like, you know, us having it available on the internet. But when it was on TV, I had a lot of people reach out to me asking for that exact story because it's so powerful. And, you know, we talk about it in a section in our book, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Tommy Kail. Lin-Manuel Miranda obviously created Hamilton, and Tommy Kail directed Hamilton. But when we talk to them for our book, that's what they're the Leo and Jed. They call each other Leo and Jed, and they always end their phone calls, as long as I got a job, you got a job.
So you have a chapter on all the people that were inspired by West Wing to do public service, to be in government. And the list is long, and I'm not going to go through it. I think I'm one of those people, too, because it continued to inspire me. But Mary, can you tell us about meeting Obama?
Yeah, he's a wingnut. President Obama is a wingnut, which I got to find out, which was so exciting. There were just days before he was elected, I was shooting a TV show called In Plain Sight in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he was coming to have a rally at the University of New Mexico, I think 4 days before the election. And my husband and I went, and we were off the stage, and he was coming our side. He was exiting the stage our side. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting. Get in line, get in line, get in line. And, you know, I thought I was going to get to shake his hand. And I'm in line, and he's coming. And I thought, oh, my God, this is so exciting. And I put out my hand, and I look up, and he looks up, and he goes, oh, you're, and I was like, nope, no, I'm not. Definitely not. I don't know anything about national security. I was like, but you're about to be the leader of the free world. It was so exciting. And then later that night, we had drinks with his body man, Reggie Love. And Reggie told us that as he had gotten out of the car to give the speech, like the car pulls up, he walks up. I mean, he's done it 1,000 times. He was watching The West Wing. And he was watching, and he happened to have been watching the episodes that I had a lot of story in about peace in the Middle East. So he was, yeah, I think he thought, well, she's here.
And he offered her a job.
I was like, now I'm just a fake cop.
But what's so great also about that is that Mary's husband captured the moment, and those photos are in the book.
Thank God for him. Yeah. There was a phone. So we have a picture of Obama going, and you're like, it's really exciting. He's a wingnut. There's a lot of wingnuts out there.
Yep.
So I want to get back to something we talked about before, and that's chapter 35 and Josh Malina. Because again, this is inside that I didn't know, and I thought I knew a lot about the show. So tell us about Josh Malina.
Well, can we tell you the title of the chapter is Meanest Man in the World. And when Josh got his copy of the book, he posted on social media a photo of that chapter saying, aha, I went right to the chapter on me.
Josh is a prankster. But when I say that, like, everyone knows someone like that, but he takes it to a whole other level. He's made all of us cry. And he'll do it again and again and again until you're laughing again somehow. Like, you move through tears and you sort of respect his game. Like, but he and Brad Whitford, who played Josh, actual character Josh, have a really violent, long-standing feud, prank feud.
And they love each other.
They do love each other, but it's clear. Insane. It's gone, like, it started out with, like, you know, standard pranks, like Vaseline on a door handle or whatever, you know, like your standard silly pranks. But now it's gotten to the level of, like, it's nuts now. Like, Brad Whitford got to write an episode of The West Wing, and he added in three times where Josh Malina's character, Will Bailey, has to say, I am a terrible actor. I cannot act. And he made him say it like 3 different times in all different ways. He was like, I told you I can't act. I cannot act. I'm a terrible actor. So great. It made Brad so happy. But then, like, that was 20 years ago. And now, recently, I think last season at the Mets game, that scene was played on the Jumbotron.
When Josh was there.
While Josh was in the crowd.
He knew Josh was going to that game, rented out the Jumbo. I mean, this is serious.
I don't even know how you do that. Money. That's like, there's like unions involved.
But Josh is pretty relentless. He's
Oh, no, Josh is the worst. When
he used to go around and rip.
Josh is the worst.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant,
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 months pregnant, maybe more, on the West Wing, and we were shooting in Camp David. And, you know, in Washington, every 17 years, they have this locusts come out of the earth, like by the millions. It is horrific. And so the show was racing to get all the exterior shots done because these locusts were on their way. So we were like really trying to get all the outside shots done. But anyway, the locusts came, and I'm phobic of like a normal bug. Not these were like this big, and they had red eyes and like milky bodies, like wet, like just the worst, like from like a hell bug, the worst. And Josh knew I was having a hard time with it. I mean, there were so many in the air and on surfaces that you would feel them under your feet as you walked to set. And I had like 3 umbrellas around me, and you would just hear like, pop, 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 pop. You know, it was awful. But Josh, I made my way into set. I was safe. And I was like, oh God, oh my Lord. And and he takes a stick and tickles the inside of my ear. I mean, I almost lost the baby. Like and he loved it. He was so proud. To this day, is very proud of that.
Yeah.
He's a little messed up.
He's also a wonderful guy, and he's been so supportive of us. He's both things.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he's messed up.
So I hate to go to what's a serious subject and probably emotional, but tell us about December 16th, 2005, John Spencer, Requiem, the election series. Tell us about that, because it must have been really hard.
Well, John Spencer passed away during, the filming of The West Wing, and you've seen the show. You know that obviously they dealt with it on the show as well. But just personally, that day, we lost someone that we all loved very much. And as Mary said, Martin and John were the parents of the show, and we lost one of our parents towards the end of the show. And we talk about it in the book. I mean, there's a whole chapter about John, but he was just a wonderful man, consummate artist, actor, so many wonderful things to say about him, and many of them are said. But we really came together as a family to talk about him that I think it was that night, and everybody called each other to let each other know that he had passed, and then we all gathered at his home and sort of sat on the couches, sat on the floor, and talked about John together as a family. And I'm very grateful for that. I mean, aren't you, Mary?
It wasn't expected, too. It was over break.
Yeah.
And he wasn't ill.
Yeah. It was very unexpected, and I think, we talked to John Wells about this and other writers too, and they were considering having Arnold Vinnick, played by Alan Alda, win the election as a Republican, and after John passed, they really decided that was, after losing him, to also lose, the presidency would have been too much of a blow for the audience, so they didn't do that.
And Mary, I was pretty touched because I watched a lot of videos of the two of you being interviewed, and one was an interview of you on MSNBC where they showed a clip of the last scene that John had acted in. And can you tell us how you and Martin reacted? You were there together.
Yeah, Martin and I got to do Jen Psaki's show, and she played a clip that I didn't know she was going to play, and Martin didn't know. And it was their last scene together on screen, and Martin just became very emotional, and he said, he just said, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
He couldn't watch it,
but he did watch it. He watched it
then
Jen Psaki's show, but it
prior
was
to that
a lot for him because he had never seen it. I think he just was too painful to watch, so he never watched it, which makes sense. And so to watch it on TV, I think it took the wind away from him a little bit, and that his emotion made me emotional. So we were kind of a mess. Yeah. Useless. I'm useless.
So we just have a few minutes left, but I want to go to the last episode, and I just want to have you read a couple of things from that. They're again kind of inside scoop. If you can read this one about Nancy, just kind of set it up just a little.
Okay. Let's see. Do you want to read it with me or no? I'll just do it. It's very short. But
What one is it?
It's the last. I'll read my own quote. The last, the last sequence filmed where President Bartlett bids farewell to his junior staffers still stands out for so many of us. The chance to memorialize on film a final moment of heartfelt gratitude for and farewell to Martin and to the show was a gift of incalculable value. Brad said it well. You didn't have to act. One of the most memorable in that final run of exchanges involved a back and forth between President Bartlett and West Wing staffer, not me, but
You're Bartlett.
West Wing staffer Nancy. President Bartlett. Nancy, how's your mother doing?
She's fine, Mr. President.
Tell her I'm looking forward to seeing her again soon, would you please? And that was a line that was improvised because Nancy...
Which is normally not done on the West Wing.
Right, but this
Final
was also
episode.
after Aaron
What
departed.
were they going to do, fire us?
But Nancy, the role of Nancy was played by Renee Estevez, Martin's daughter. So when Martin says, how's your mother doing? Tell her I'm looking forward to seeing her again soon, would you please? He would finally get a chance to spend some time with his family.
Yeah,
Instead of 16 hours with his West Wing family a day.
Yeah.
So tell them to go back, watch the last episode about Aaron,
Oh, that Aaron's in it.
Yeah.
the pardon.
Oh, the pardon letter. He signs it. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, there's a picture of it in here.
Yeah.
So, but tell them that Aaron was the pardon attorney that signed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what did they show at the inauguration? They show Aaron in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
And a nice close-up of Aaron Sorkin in the audience. So
Yeah.
you have to look for it, though. But it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see Aaron there.
Yeah.
So,
And Charlie Sheen, I think, is in that, too. I think Charlie was on the lot and came by. Or did he just come by
No,
to
I
say
think
hi
he
to
just
Martin?
came by.
Yeah.
The final night of filming
It was a party.
It really was, and it was that scene, the scene where President Bartlett and Nancy, and then I get to shake, my character shakes hands with the president. People with sort of the smaller, staffer roles, and but go back and watch that. That was actually the final night of filming, and everybody came back that night, and we were there till very, very, very late because nobody wanted to go home.
so I want to end with a quote from President Bartlett, and I think it's really about service. And if
Melissa,
one
you
of
better,
read
because I
that.
cry.
Okay. Luckily, I have my contacts in. Okay, so this
Well, I
one.
can
right
Yes.
here.
Yeah, but if you want to hear it.
President Bartlett, I can sense civic duty a mile away. It's something we pass on, something with a history, so we can say, my father gave this to me, and his father gave it to him, and now I'm giving it to you. It seems more and more we've come to expect less and less from each other, and I think that should change. How do we end the cycle? Be subject to one another. If a guy's a good neighbor, if he puts in a day, if every once in a while he laughs, if every once in a while he thinks about somebody else, and above all else, if he can find his way to compassion and tolerance, then he's my brother. So, where are we going? What's next?
So, thank you for the West Wing. Thank you for a great book, and thanks
Thank
for
you
being
for
here.
having
You're
us. This
wonderful.
was
For
fun.
having us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, gang. Thank you. Oh, good.
Good.
Thanks, you guys.